Hi, this is Mary Kay. Today I'm going to be painting this lion. I took this picture in South Africa and I ran it off of my computer. I have traced with water-soluble tracing paper. This is, of course, a male lion. He's not that old and he has a brother. What I'm going to do right now is put in the whiskers and this right here with PBO. So I'm going to use a small brush, and I put my brush into dilute shampoo. It's about 1/3 shampoo and 2/3 water. And then this is PBO drawing gum. It's the only masking that I use. So when I use PBO, the lines that are formed by the PBO are very distinct. When they come off. That first line I did was was thicker than the others. I'm going to put a couple more thick ones in, so that's not so obvious. And then the whiskers really come all the way from little dots on their cheek. But let's see. How far am I going to go with these? So I'm just using like less than a drop of PBO, and then I'm just using my brush, my tiny little, this is a 1. Okay, I'm going to stop with the whiskers there. I don't think I quite got them in the right. I was trying to get to the holes, but you can't really. That's good enough. This is a piece of art by a human, so it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to paint the lion first and then the background. Oh, you know what would be good is I think if I had a little piece of grass coming up with PBO, that would be good too. Let's do that. I'm going to redo this part. Sorry, I'm changing my mind here. Okay, so I dip my brush into the shampoo once, and then that's it. You just need to do that once. Okay, so just how high do I want this to go? So this little weed's coming up. Oh. No weeds coming across, maybe. So there's one over his paw. There's a green weed here that's coming up. I was in South Africa, and it is the end of the rainy season there, so the bush was mostly green. There is a claw right here. Although it's not perfectly white in the photograph, it's kind of in shadow. I'm going to go ahead and just put the claw in with PBO also. Now I want to do him, I want his mane to be furry and fluffy. So I'm going to wet his mane. His ear. Is not fluffy. It's all craggy and chewed on. I don't know how it got so chewed on, but I wasn't there for that part. And then his face is just, his fur is not super furry. And his face, see, now I can go right over the down here is in shadow, but his fur, his mane goes all the way to his little paw, his huge paws. And this is all fur, I mean all mane. So when he's sitting down facing like this, that's all mane. Okay, so that's wet into wet. I just wet where the mane is. Now I have to pick a color. I'm seeing a lot of burnt sienna. Looking at my palette. I don't know what I painted last time. It's been so long since I've painted with this palette. Okay, I think it's a little more yellow than this. So what if I put yellow into it? Let's see what it looks like. That's pretty close. That's a good color. So burnt sienna and yellow. Let's see what quinacridone. This is quinacridone gold with a little burnt sienna. What does it do? I actually kind of like this one better. Well, mixed together. Okay, whatever. Here we go. So it's where it's so can you see how it's because it's furry, the big mane where the watercolor is going into the wet. It looks like fur. It's all fluffy. That's just the water painting it for us. And the mane kind of comes up there by the ear. The furry part. Just come right up to the chin. To the chinny chin chin. And then down. Now I'm going to go in with more burnt sienna only into this wet paint, so it's still damp. Now what I'm doing is I'm looking for the shadows here in the mane, which are there and there, and I'm going to be just adding the burnt sienna into the wet paint here. So it still looks furry, but it's starting to give it more dimension. So there's some depth to it. This is one of the few hard edges, which is right next to his right paw, right front paw. And right underneath here. And then this dark down here. Now I'm going to mix some sepia into this. And this is going to be an even darker fluffy mane shadows. Goes right up around his chin here. A little bit more dark in here. And so that's how we do big fluffy mane, is with wet into wet. And you don't overwork it. You just paint it and leave it and let it paint itself. I'm doing a few little flicks with the side of my brush. Now I'm going to take the same color and the same brush that I'm using, and I'm going to go in and paint, well, there's a little bit of shadow here in the mane, and then this ear, but the ear is dry on dry. And this is just the tip of his left ear, and I'm going to charge in some burnt sienna at the bottom right there. And now I'm going to start painting this shadow of his face. Now he has an eye right here. You can barely see it. The eye is brown and it's in shadow. And there's just a little shadow around his nose here. And just the outside. So that's just a little bit of shadow. Now the eye is here. You really can't even see it, but I'm gonna paint like the pupil. I sort of just made a dark area for the eye. I left a tiny bit, and I'm going to leave it very nondescript. Now I'm going to come into the nostrils with this dark paint. Then it comes down to Cats are so funny that they actually really do have smiles. Okay. I think there are little rows of dots here. I'm going to okay. I think I'll paint this eye, the darks around this eye. Like eyeliner. And then the golden red part, let's use burnt sienna and either yellow or quinacridone gold. That's really the same color as the main. So this eye is in the bright sun. It's more gold than I just made it. I don't really see a pupil in this eye. If it is, I think it's a slit. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the face and the ears. So this is going to be dry on dry. The same colors though, really, but we're going to start with the lighter color. So this is quinacridone gold or yellow and just a tiny bit of burnt sienna. And the face now, I'm going to use the side of my brush and make it kind of rough. I'm going to put a little bit more burnt sienna in that. Lots of water, but okay. Because I want it to look like it's, looks like it's all kind of beat up. So I'm just making my brush strokes. And this is more yellow down here, huh? It's almost white, really. And this is sort of, okay. All right, it's gonna work this. Here's the ear. And I'm going to start putting in burnt sienna into the ear. And around the eye, up here. Sort of craggy and scratched already. Now I'm going to go into my darks again. This is sepia. The little burnt sienna. I'm going to just try a bit of neutral tint into that to almost make it black. Okay, so now I'm going to go in for the really dark part of the ear. Making it uneven, and so it looks like it's sort of beat up. And there's a shadow in the fur over here. put more shadow in this ear out here. It's very dark out there. A little darker right there. And then speckles. Did I get this ear well enough? Not really. I feel like this ear needs to be a little bigger. It actually kind of goes like all the way up to the mane. Well, let's work on that a little bit. Bigger ears. That's better. That's a better ear. Okay. And then the face is coming up more. Using the side of my brush. I've got the sun is coming through the window here on my painting. This is going to be bad in the video. Okay, so I'm trying to get just put more paint where the shadow on the face is, because some of it's in the sun. All right, I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to come in down here and put in the shadows of the left rear. It's nice and dark. You can't really tell what's going on around this paw is very bright, so you can't really see where the line is and where the shadow of the grass is. So I'm just going to just make that shadow disappear with water here. And let's see. Then this paw here is the same colors that I've used already. There's like the yellow here on the top. And then the more burnt sienna. I love that claw. And then this side over here, it's the same yellow. Yellow and burnt sienna. Coming up to here. And then it goes into the weeds. So weeds are our friends and shadows are our friends today. I feel like this eye just needs to be redone with a little bit more burnt sienna. Because really this is the focal point is going to be this eye right here. So I want this eye to glow, and it's going to need a slit, I think, and it needs to have this shadow around the outside of it. And then there's a little really light area right under it. The bottom lid is kind of light, and then it really does kind of have like a eyeliner. And then I'm going to put a little slit. Put a little slit over here too in the dark. There we go. Now we have an eye. He is looking at something. I'm gonna go a little blacker here in the nose with this that I have now in my brush. Can paint negative. It looks like the fur is there. Okay, that's good. I'm gonna put a little bit more shadow in this paw and down here. All right, there's my lion. I think the face could use a little bit more paint on it. And it can use a little bit more shadow. There's a couple spots where there's a kind of a shadow coming here. Just sort of between the nose and the eye. Let's put that in. Shadows are our friends. Some scratches in there, and here. Excuse me. Okay, now we need to paint the background. I really just believe in a very loose background for this. What I'm gonna do is just wet the background with my big 3/4 inch brush with a little bit of sepia in it. I was, like I said, in the rainy season. Now this part of the grass was kind of dry, and I don't even know why, but when I was there, the bush was green, 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 green everywhere. So I'm just gonna paint in very loose, soft background colors. I'm going to paint really, the lion matches the background colors, and of course they do that, you know, that's part of their survival, matching. So just putting in So I'm using burnt sienna and sepia today as my darks. have a big watermark here in my paper. I'm going to make some green with Antwerp and yellow. I want a nice bright green. And I'm just going to okay. I'm going to take my scratcher and try to get that to make it look like some grasses. Put some more darks in there. Especially in here. I'm going to sign my name with my signer. I think my signer needs to be sharpened because it's sort of digging into my paper. Okay, I'm going to take off the PBO. Okay, let's see, where was it? I'm running a risk because my paper's slightly damp. I'm pulling off the PBO. I do this all the time. I can never take the, I never am patient enough. You should have whiskers and a few grasses. See, I got green on my, because I couldn't wait. All right, there we have it.